Boing. Hey-yo.
Bottles. What? Bottles. You caught Penny sending messages in bottles? Little girl! Send the next flight down to Devil's Bayou.
I love this, how he's really exaggerating the neck. It feels like you feel the tension. I almost wish he had a bit more of those like stretch lines in the neck or something. That would have been really fun. So he's really compressing the face, which is really snarling up the nose, which is really compressing the eyes. So everything feels connected. Everything's pressing in to the face. See that changing contrast? You can do this stuff in 3D. It just, yeah, it is like a turtle. You just have to really think about how you can push the body in the correct way without, like, it still needs to feel connected whilst you're exaggerating shapes. Sometimes in 3D, when people exaggerate shapes, it looks great as a pose, but when they transition, it doesn't always feel like it's connected. So you have to be very aware as how you're pushing the body. So the same way with the brows, whenever I animate brows, I'm thinking about the muscle groups as I'm trying to exaggerate things. The same with the mouth, how we have these rings around our eyes and our mouth, and everything should pull out in those specific ways. And so you've got to still think about anatomy as you exaggerate.
Bottles. What? Bottles.
I love this shot because it's so simple. She's literally gone from listening. So this is what we would call like an ABA, which is generally what you try to avoid, but I think it works for this shot. So what I mean by this is when you have a pose 1, so if I'm like this, and then I go, haha, this is pose 2, I don't want to come back to this again. But it depends on the context. So I feel like in this shot it works. She's like, yes, huh? And she goes back because she's curious. Like, her attitude and her context hasn't changed. There's just a reaction in between. So for this, like, it works. So we got A, B, A. Do you see? The only thing that's really changed between the two is now she's leant more in, so she's more intrigued. She's like, huh? And then she goes back in even more. So it shows like a progression of her being more interested and trying to find out what the information is.
You caught Penny.
Again, this for me is more about like isolating actions and rhythm, this shot. So this is our pose 1, and again, simple and complex. So there's a slight anticipation, which is also the reaction. So now she's like, so she's building up her anger. So there's a little anticipation here where we have an isolated movement for the hand reaching down to the chair. So now this is the action we're looking at. So he's broken up that action.
You caught.
So instead of going, you caught Penny, instead of like, you caught Penny and doing it all at the same time, he's isolated the movement. So he's gone, you caught Penny. So it's, instead of just being one movement, it's like 1, 2, 3. So there's more of a progression and a build up to her tension. So again, you've got to think about how you can use rhythm to support the context. So if it's supposed to be a very subtle moment where they're saying a lot of things, maybe you don't want to change the rhythm too much because it's more intense and you're supposed to be absorbing the one emotion. Whereas if it's a build-up or like a progression to getting angry, maybe if I were to describe anger as a rhythm, maybe it'd be like da 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 da, kind of thing, where it gets slower and then builds up, is like, and then it gets angry. And in the same way, it could be the opposite with like a thought process. So maybe it's thinking and it's like duh, 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 and then you're slowing down the rhythm. So now they're internalizing. So you got to think about how you can support rhythm with the context and the emotion of the shot. So again, he's breaking up that rhythm. So it's not just sending messages, it's sending messages, and having the changing and the timing of the hand hits the accent. And he's training the hand back. So you got that. And then on messages, she gets angry. So it's sending messages and then changes. So you get, again, it's almost like a double beat. So it's sending messages instead of just sending messages. So we got this spine curve now through her body. And then in the anticipation, she's leading with the chest. So the chest now is the thing that's driving the action as the head follows through and comes down. So you get those opposing actions. Do you see that? It feels like she's pulling with her shoulder. So because the chest is coming up, the root has come down slightly. So you're getting those opposing actions. And then on the accent, it straightens out again. And the accent comes mostly from the head stretching. And again, I love the straight lines that we're getting. You still see how it kind of makes one continuous shape. Like you can feed certain parts of the body into another, and it's pretty much a square, like an skewed square. But like this, what I'm saying is this forearm links down and almost connects with the end of the finger. So you can still create simple shapes out of it. Again, this is more subtle, but there is a slight change of width on one side, like a hip is kind of angled here. So it feels like she's curling in on herself, kind of thing. And still finding ways to break up the asymmetry by showing more silhouette on one side of the arm than the other. So this is our anticipation now, and we've got a great simple and complex here. So I love these actions now, where it feels like it has really, like there's a really crazy amount of like force and action. You get these really straight lines. So I find that when you're posing, if you want to make something feel more aggressive, then you use sharper lines, where if you want something to feel more calm, then you use softer lines. You curve the lines. So in here, because she's angrier, you can make these a lot sharper, and it makes her feel more aggressive and assertive. So this is an interesting one. I wanted to track the arc in the hand in this one. So we're leading with the elbow as the hand comes round. So now we're pulling out with the elbow. And we're going to track the hand round. So now we've got this arc. And it does that. You watch the arc. So this is a classic Richard Williams class where he thumps the hand on the table. And coincidentally, Milt Cole taught Richard Williams. So this makes sense that he did this class, right? And so you lead with the elbow, then you rotate round in the X with the upper arm, and then as you're leading down with the upper arm, you trail the hand, the forearm behind, and then you slam after. So you get this. Dunk. You get that impact. If you want something to feel heavier, you don't ease into it. You just hit straight away. So if you were in the graph editor in 3D, instead of having, if you want to have impact, your curve wouldn't look like this. It wouldn't soften. It would do this. Dunk. Straight down. And the tighter that spacing is, so you can anticipate and then just go boom. The tighter that the separation is, sorry, the wider the separation is between those keys, that spacing, the more impact you're going to have. Williams, he says, say Milt, do you ever listen to yeah, the music thing? Yeah, exactly. I think the more anticipation, the heavier it looks too, definitely. So the faster the action is, and the more space you're going to produce after, the more energy you're projecting, the more anticipation it takes. So if I wanted to jump over a fence, I would have to take a lot of anticipation to gain the momentum to push myself up. I couldn't just go doing without any anticipation, or it couldn't even be a little anticipation to shoot yourself straight up. It would have to be a hey. A perfect example of that, actually, is in the little intro I made recently. I made a little intro for my YouTube channel, so I'll quickly show that to you guys, because I might as well now that we're mentioning it. So I'll just play that. So you can see that I added a lot of anticipation, so that it allows it to spring up again. So there's a little anticipation where it holds down here, then it projects up, and because of that it has more time to gain the momentum to come back down. And then it takes longer to anticipate here to spring and really stretch itself up again. So she tends to have these three like bump spine structure, where she has like her upper spine, then her like fat that kind of like bunches up in the middle, and then you've got her hips. I never noticed that before, but there's these little impact lines that he's drawn. I can just about see them. But yeah, the phone reacts to the slam as well, which is awesome. I love this as well. So not only is this show her attitude where she's really aggressive and she's directly pointing at the phone like, I'm gonna get you, but she's also like, I just love these angles where it's super profile. So you got, again, the complex and simple. I like how there's a little impact cushion as well. So you've got the stretch on the finger, and then as she presses, there's some impact. There's like a cushion frame on the tip of the finger. You watch. So you got this stretch, and then there's a little bend in the finger there, and then it straightens back out again. So he's breaking up the action by having this action in between. So it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of thing. He's going to let me scrub back.
On the next flight down to Devil's Bayou.
Personally, for me, I think this was a little over animated. That's just my preference. But I do like the pointing. But when he says Devil's Bayou and it continues to shake constantly, personally, I maybe have just saved that to 1 or 2 shakes and then probably settled on one pose. So it says, you come down to Devil's Bayou. And I probably would have done that rather than Devil's Bayou. Because there's something about that that makes it feel now over animated, because you have repeating textures constantly going again. And it would have maybe have helped break up the rhythm, so it would have been Devil's Bayou, douche, rather than Devil's Bayou, douche, where it continues. That's, I don't know, potentially subjective. So again, I love how the shoulders feed in from one to another, and you still get a little break in the elbow to read the silhouette. But everything now feels like it's pointing towards where it's about to slam. Like her eyes are pointing there. Like everything kind of just feeds through. So we get this nice coning effect. You get this nice kind of S shape going through the body. And then it finishes with a really direct shapes where she's really angry again. And it's still got a little bit of complexity where we're getting a bit of what we call contraposter, which is where the hips are protruding out one way so that we bring out asymmetry in the body. So the hips are angled out. That way we get a bit more bunching on one side and a bit more straight on the other.